As we are continuing with our understanding of the process of photosynthesis, today in this video we'll be talking about what are the various factors that affect the process of photosynthesis. Now, all of you know that photosynthesis is a very important process which has been broadly divided into the two phases, that is the light reaction and the dark reaction. And there are certain substances or factors which regulate or which are very important for the photosynthesis to happen. So, there are several factors that affect the process of photosynthesis. Now, these factors which affect the photosynthesis have been classified as external factors, that is, the factors that are outside or that are extrinsic to the plant, or there are certain internal factors which affect or which cause a change in the rate of photosynthesis. Now, there are several internal factors such as the amount of chlorophyll. Now, the amount of chlorophyll governs the rate of photosynthesis. Also, the number and size of the leaves. The number and size of leaves. Because again, if the number is more, the plant will be able to perform or more amount of photosynthesis. The leaf orientation. Leaf orientation, that whether the leaves are exposed to sunlight or are oriented in such a manner that sunlight is not sufficient for it to reach over there. Then the number of chloroplasts and also the mesophyll cells. So these are various internal factors which affect the rate of photosynthesis. Now, apart from these internal factors, there are certain external factors which are also affecting the rate of photosynthesis. Now, the external factors such as the temperature at which the plant is thriving, the amount of water. Again, it is a factor that affects the rate of photosynthesis. The CO2 concentration, carbon dioxide concentration, and the availability of sunlight. Now, these are the various external and internal factors that affect the photosynthesis. Now, the internal factors of the plant, however, are also dependent on the genetic composition, because it is the genetic composition that is being passed from one plant of one species to the next generation. So, it is the genetic constitution that governs and also the conditions of the growth. Now, during during the process of photosynthesis, several of these factors work together and they affect the rate of photosynthesis. That means various factors, all these they interact variously and perform photosynthesis. Now, the rate at which the carbon dioxide is fixed. So, photosynthesis in other terms when we talk, it is the rate of fixation of carbon dioxide. Now, it is important to understand that in spite of all the factors interacting with each other, it is one factor that regulates or limits the rate of photosynthesis. Or, in other words, if we say, the factor that is present at suboptimal level will affect the rate. What does this mean? Suppose all the conditions are optimum, then the plant will be able to perform the photosynthesis efficiently. But if the rate or if one of the factor is below optimum level, that is it acts as a limiting factor over there, then it will affect the rate of photosynthesis in spite of other factors being or at the optimum level. You can understand this very easily that when a team is playing, the performance of the team depends on the performance of all the team members. That means if a team is working well, or if it is performing well, then all the team members are participating equally. But suppose one or two of the team members perform below level, then it affects the performance of the entire team. Maybe the team might lose. So therefore, this is what is meant by the limiting factor. So Blackman came up with his law of limiting factors in 1905, and it says that if a chemical process, over here we are talking of photosynthesis as a chemical process. So if a chemical process is affected by more than one factor, then its rate will be determined by the factor which is nearest to its minimal value. So that factor will be the limiting factor. And limiting factors are usually expressed as a lack of a particular resource. So it is the factor that directly affects the process if its quantity is changed. Now we can also understand this by an example. Now if suppose a leaf is exposed, if a leaf of a plant or a plant leaf is exposed to optimum light, the leaf is having optimum light, sufficient amount of CO2 and water, which is again a requirement for that. But the problem over here, and since the leaf is green, that means chlorophyll rich leaf. But if the temperature is below optimum level, temperature is, two conditions are there, below optimum level. Now, if the temperature is below optimum level or very low, then the rate of photosynthesis of this particular plant will be very, very low. In spite of the plant being rich in chlorophyll, having optimum exposure or having optimum exposure to the light, sunlight, sufficient amount of carbon dioxide concentration is available, sufficient quantity of water is available, but temperature is below optimum level. In this case, the rate of photosynthesis will be low. But if optimum, second condition, if optimum is made available, if optimum temperature is available, then the rate of photosynthesis increases or reaches to optimum level. So that means over here all the factors are normal, but it is the temperature that is acting as the limiting factor or is controlling the rate of photosynthesis. So therefore we can say that law of limiting factors holds true over here, that it is, if a chemical process is affected by more than one factor, then its rate will be determined by the factor which is having the minimal value. Let us now try and understand or work out one by one each of the factor. We know the light is one of the important factors that is playing a role in photosynthesis. Apart from light, there are carbon dioxide, temperature and water. So we'll be studying one by one the factors, how they affect the photosynthesis. So first we are taking light. Now, light is taken up by the plant in the form of photons and it is absorbed by chlorophyll. and as it triggers off the light reaction and followed by the biosynthetic phase. Now, if we study a graph over here, this side is the rate of photosynthesis. This is the rate of photosynthesis, and here it is the light intensity. Let us plot a graph. E Now here, let us analyze this graph. We have light intensity on the x-axis and y-axis we have the rate of photosynthesis. Now, if you observe over here, there is a linear relationship between the carbon dioxide fixation. That is, over here it is carbon dioxide fixation, in other words we say, and the light intensity. What does this mean? This means that as the light intensity increases, the rate of photosynthesis also increases. So the light has linear relationship. And you can see over here through the graph that as the light intensity is increased, the rate of photosynthesis also increases. So A and B, you can see that the rate of photosynthesis increases with the increased light intensity. Another important point which you have to make a note, that at very high light intensity, the rate does not increase further. So this is the optimum light. Now beyond this, however, if we increase the rate of light or the light intensity is increased, the rate of photosynthesis remains the same. It does not change and it becomes constant. So over here, it is the constant stage. So what is happening over here, as the maximum optimum, after reaching the optimum light intensity, optimum level of light, their rate of photosynthesis becomes constant. And you can see from the graph over here, that is C to D, it is constant. It increases. So E is the optimum level or optimum light intensity. So if we need to increase the rate of photosynthesis over there, then either the concentration of the carbon dioxide or the temperature needs to be increased to increase the rate of photosynthesis or carbon dioxide fixation. So over here, at this optimum level, the light is acting as a limiting factor. Now, the saturation of light happens at nearly 10% of the full sunlight. It means that at 10% of the sunlight, saturation of light takes place. So 10% of full sunlight, the saturation point takes place. And beyond this, there is no change or increase in the rate of photosynthesis. And photosynthesis is maximum or is at that point. Beyond that, there is no change in the photosynthesis. So that means that plants which are growing in shades or in dense forest, they have light as limiting factor. But plants that are found in proper sunlight, they do not have limiting factor as light. Light will be a limiting factor for plants which are growing in shades, or in dense forest. Also, it is important that very high light intensity. If the light intensity is very high, it damages the chlorophyll. So when it damages the chlorophyll, and this results into the decrease of photosynthesis. So here we see that light plays an important limiting factor in plants where they are growing in shade, and normally with the increasing light intensity, the rate of photosynthesis or the fixation of carbon dioxide also increases, but it happens up to a optimum level, that is 10% of the full sunlight, that is the saturation point. Beyond that, light does not affect or does not cause an increase in the carbon dioxide fixation unless we increase the concentration of carbon dioxide or the temperature is increased.